See, right? Our meeting is called to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner?
Here.
Reverend Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Gilstrap?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Here.
Mr. Raleigh?
Here.
Mayor Saunders?
Here.
Mr. Shanks?
Here.
Mr. Vogler?
Here.
Please stand for the invocation tonight given by Vice Mayor Dr. Gary Miller and remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for this city, Danville, our home, and thank you for the people of this city. For the city, the buildings, the parks, the fields, these are only the shell of the body. The soul of the city are its people. And it is the soul of the city, which is the inner spark, that never gives in to adversity, never gives in to prejudice, injustice, poverty, and is determined to persevere. Let us take an example from Wendell Scott Sr., who never gave in against adversity, against injustice. May we learn from his example and never give up. In the end, we will be victorious. Amen.
Amen.
Now, tonight, rather than me leading it, we're going to let the Danville Area Girl Scouts lead our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And while we have the Girl Scouts standing, we do have a proclamation. And it reads, whereas March 12, 2015 marked the 103rd anniversary of Girl Scouts of the USA, founded by Juliet Gordon Lowe in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. And whereas throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouting has inspired millions of girls and women with the highest ideals of character, conduct, and patriotism. And whereas through Girl Scouting, girls gain courage, confidence, and character who make their local communities and the world a better place. And whereas more than 3.2 million current Girl Scout members nationwide will be celebrating 103 years of this American tradition, with nearly 60 million women who are former Girl Scouts and living proof of the impact of this amazing movement. Now, therefore, I, Sherman M. Saunders, Mayor, City of Danville, do hereby proclaim March 8 through 14, 2015 as Girl Scout Week and applaud the commitment Girl Scouting has made to America's girls. Given under my hand this third day of March 2015, Sherman M. Saunders, Mayor. Thank you all so very much.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
My name is Maygail Dalton. Now firstly, my troop, Troop 152, would like to thank the representation of City Council at our peaceful dedication in November, and we would like to thank Mayor Saunders for saying a few words at our peaceful dedication. Thank you. I'm 16 years old and have been a Girl Scout for 11 years. I have been a part of numerous events, hundreds of Girl Scout meetings, and have sold thousands of boxes of Girl Scout cookies. I've gained endless experience and leadership skills from being a Girl Scout, and that is exactly what Juliet Gordon Lowe wanted in 1912 when she started this organization. Girl Scouts has always taught us to think globally and act locally. And when Girl Scouts and Girl Guides from around the world all act locally, it creates a global change. Girl Scouts are all around us, from congresswomen to stay-at-home moms. They use skills they learned throughout their childhoods in everyday life. I couldn't even think about where I'd be if it weren't for my years in Scouts. It has changed me forever, and I will always be thankful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I've been in Girl Scouts for 10 years, and through those 10 years, it has changed my life. It has formed and shaped me into a young leader. It has allowed me to build such leadership skills. I've been recognized by Envision Leadership, and I'm an NYLC alumni, which is National Young Leaders Council. I was also allowed with these opportunities to take part at President Obama's second inauguration. Another life skill that Girl Scouts has given me is public speaking, or I wouldn't be talking here. I've talked in front of so many people that it does not even scare me. I actually love talking to big groups of people. The best thing Girl Scouts has taught and given to me was sisterhood. That I will always have sisters there for me through thick and thin, and they will love and care for you, even if you have a little fight with them. The girls will always be my sister, and I want to thank all my sisters for coming out tonight. Also, Troop 152 will be back in May to issue a challenge to council and residents of the Southside region for our 2015 Global Action Award. It's going to be very exciting, but I can't tell y'all. Now we have some amazingly delicious Girl Scout cookies for you.
And while the cookies are coming, let me just say congratulations on your experience in Washington with the President of the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. One treat. Thanks. Again, thank you all so very much. Under communication, those who wish to speak on any item not on the agenda will be heard at this time. If you wish to speak on any agenda item, you will be heard when the item is considered. Anyone wish to speak? Yes, sir. Good evening.
My name is Davis Montgomery. I'm the district manager for Duke Energy. Good evening to you, to the members of council, Mr. King, and members of the Danville city staff. My purpose here tonight is the same as it has been for past meetings, to be a resource to you and to the community, to provide you updates on relevant topics and to answer your questions. Would like to start off tonight by talking about what you may have seen as a recent announcement that Duke Energy made about an agreement that we have reached with the U.S. government. This agreement, this proposed agreement, and I have to emphasize that it is a proposed agreement because it has to be approved by the district judge of the Eastern District of North Carolina. But this proposed agreement will close an investigation into our company related to the Dan River coal ash spill, as well as ash basin operations at other North Carolina plants. This agreement, of course, is subject to review and approval by the U.S. District Court. The agreement would require, among other things, for Duke Energy Carolinas to pay $64.2 million in fines and restitution. In addition to that, it will pay $34 million for what's being called community service and mitigation, so a total of about $102 million. We like to emphasize that our highest priority is operating our system as safely as possible for both our customers, the communities we serve, as well as those downstream of our operations. We are committed to moving forward in a safe and responsible way. We've taken important steps to strengthen our coal ash operations, to develop sound closure plans, and independent research confirms that Dan River is thriving and that we will be a part of this region for the long term. This is a hard time for our company, but we have learned from the experience, and we're absolutely confident in our ability to meet the needs of our customers and neighbors in a safe and responsible way. So that was probably the most recent announcement that you heard about the company. Moving on to something else a little more local. As you know, we committed back during the time when we were using a broken park that we would put that park back in as good, if not better shape than what we found it. That's been an ongoing process, part of which was at the request of the city that there's certain things we shouldn't do until it became the appropriate time. And I'm talking about planting trees and shrubs and doing mulching and that sort of thing. If you have been down there, you've seen that we've done the first phase of that remediation work is what I'll call it. But we've put some mulch out, we've planted several beds out there, we put some crepe myrtles in, and I never know whether to call it liriope or liriope, but it's that grass that holds really well and lives really well, but it's border planting, so we put that in as well. The other thing that we have left to do is to come back in the appropriate time when the Bermuda grass starts to come out, to treat that grass and to kill it and to get it out of the beds, but that's the last part of what we've committed to do there, and we've worked in concert with your Parks and Recreation to do that. The last thing that I have to talk about is a recent article. Coal ash use and disposal is being reviewed by a North Carolina Coal Ash Management Commission. This was a commission appointed by the state during the Coal Ash Management Act. They're looking at the environmental reuse or the beneficial reuse of coal ash products. The recent EPA ruling that coal ash was classified as a non-hazardous means that it can be continued to be used in concrete, wallboard, and other beneficial uses. The fact is that as long as we generate electricity with coal, and when I say we, I mean the collective we, all those utilities and entities across the United States, there's always going to be coal ash. And it's our feeling that it's a much better use of it to put it back into a beneficial reuse than to just store it in the lined landfills someplace. We have the belief that eventually all coal ash can be recycled and be reused in a beneficial way, but obviously we've got a long road ahead of us in terms of that, accomplishing that for ourselves. So with that, that's my brief update for you tonight. Would be glad to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Let me thank you for the update. Then I'll ask Councilman if they have any questions or comments for you. You've heard me say many times you've come here to address us, and I use the term Danville specific. You talked tonight about 2 amounts of a settlement. Can Danville expect to be a beneficiary of some of those funds?
And Mr. Mayor, I hope you'll appreciate the fact that I have been closely advised about speculating about how that might be used. We don't want to appear as though we might use a public announcement or a public forum to exert any kind of pressure or influence on what the court may decide. But I would look carefully at the announcement as being identified as community service and mitigation. And again, I'm going to personalize this. I'm not speaking on behalf of the company when I say this. But I would say personally, I would think that there would be possibly a third party named to do that. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be Duke Energy. I think it would be a third party or a board, Mayor Saunders, and that's the way that it would go and how that process will work. Should be made public, I think, in as little as a couple of weeks, but we'll all be watching for that announcement. I'll be glad to update the council at the time it's made and answer questions.
Thank you. Question, comments for Mr. Shank and Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
One of the projects you talked about was a Grogan Park.
Yes, sir.
And I just for clarity, what you're doing at a Grogan Park with the mulching and the liripe and crepe myrtles, that's simply for the use of closing down a brew. Has nothing to do with compensation.
Sir. No, sir.
It's cleaning up, returning it to good shape, and a little bit better for this purpose of thanking us for allowing you to use the park during the summer.
Yes, sir. I would say it would be for, and I'll call it quite appropriately, the damage, the use of the park, the fact that we had to take several of those plants out in order to set up that equipment. As you members know, when you went by that park, it was completely full of operating equipment. That meant that several things had to be done in order to do that. So we worked with your Parks and Recreation people. I think maybe even a tree advisory board as to what trees you wanted to go back when and where. But you're exactly right, Mr. Shanks. That is just for the use of that park. That's
yes,
all
and I appreciate you clarifying that, because I really think it's important that distinguishment be made.
Yes, sir.
Simply because it was an issue that involved city property that y'all kind of tied up for a while.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking forward to hearing more details on, I think, the litigation that you've been having with the Justice Department. I'm looking forward to what you have to say about, or what this third party has to say about this.
And if I could, not to correct you, but just to say I don't want to presume that it will be a third party. I don't want to comment on the process. That was just my personal feelings, but how that will play out, absolutely.
Okay, and I'm just anxious to see how that plays out, as well as I assume there'll be some kind of a consent order or something signed with the state of Virginia as well. Is that true?
I wish I could comment a little further on that. do not know where those, I know there's ongoing talks, and that's about all I can speak to.
Well, I think, and Mayor, I'll close by just saying, I think this has been going on for a little over a year now, and I think council is somewhat disturbed and unhappy with the slow progress of hearing back from Duke on several issues. And I hope as some of these other items are cleared up, I hope to hear more from Duke. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shanks. And I would say that we are absolutely committed to work with the city of Danville and to move forward just as quickly as the city would like. So that has not changed. We're absolutely committed to that, Mr. Shanks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Well, it's been 13 months, Mr. Shanks, and we appreciate you were just a spokesman for Duke, but you have to appreciate we're very frustrated. We were told it would be Duke would make it right, Duke Energy make it right. And I don't see you've done anything to make it right in 13 months.
I appreciate your comments.
Nothing. Fixing up the park, a few $100,000. I mean, we know what Duke Energy's worth, and we know what the board, your officers make cumulative $25 million. So $100,000 or $500,000 compared to that is a spit in the bucket. And I'm sure they'll get bonuses this year for their good work in covering up spills through the years or resisting cleaning up spills. But we're getting darn frustrated that you're not doing anything to make it right. And again, I want you to pass this on to your superiors, because I'm sure you're the spokesman. We appreciate it's nothing personal. But I think it's time for Duke to make it right. Do something. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate your comments, Vice Mayor. And as you know, we've been meeting with the city for over 9 months. We didn't start a meeting immediately. We've been trying to work towards an agreement. We have taken some cues from the city in terms of what you'd like to see. I'm speaking to the prioritized list of projects. We presented you with a proposal. I don't believe we got a reaction to that. We did get a different set of ideas from the City Council. We worked on that. Incorporating your request, we presented a second proposal that we didn't receive an answer to. But you're right. We're absolutely committed to working on this and to moving forward with it. And again, as I stated just briefly a moment ago, just as quickly as the city would like to move.
Just a follow up to Mr. Shanks and then Mr. Vogler. You said you submitted proposals to us?
Yes, sir.
We also submitted some.
I'm sorry.
We also submitted some as well.
All right, so then, yes, sir. If we're talking about the same proposals, we received something from you. We responded back to that. We had a request to maybe reconsider it in a different format that you preferred. We submitted a second proposal back to the city.
I think we may be talking about different proposals.
Yes, sir. And I just have to depend on Mr. Whitfield to help.
I just want to clarify, any proposal you didn't hear back from us from?
Yes, sir.
Was not a worthy proposal.
Well, sir, some feedback would have been helpful, but.
Well, I will say that I did communicate to your council on at least one of those proposals, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, then I'll take that. I appreciate the clarification.
Mr. Shanks, you have more? That's it, thank you.
Mr. Vogler?
Yeah, let me reiterate what my colleagues on council said, that this is not directed to you individually, but since you've been kind enough to continue to come down on behalf of Duke. As it was pointed out, 13 months ago was when this incident took place. But it's not something that's been left in the past. It's something that we as a council and we as a city continue to deal with. We continue to hear about, whether in reality or in perception. The public here is still very concerned about it, continue to be concerned about it, and long-term effects and things of that nature. It has been 13 months, and it was a terrible situation what happened. The Dan River at large was negatively impacted, but not a single place was impacted more than Danville was. And not a single place suffered more than we have because of it. So, you know, you all said in the beginning that you were going to make this right, and we have taken you at your word, and it's been 13 months, and has been pointed out so far has not been encouraging, I would say, what we've seen so far. But you all have an opportunity to take something that was extremely negative and do everything you can to make a positive with this as much as you possibly can. And I truly hope that that is what you do. And that is what we as a city council and as a city expect. So again, thank you for coming tonight. But we expect to see something happen here soon, because it has been increasingly frustrating to see the lack of progress. Thank you, Mayor.
Other question or comments?
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Vogler, and I absolutely agree with you. I think it's something that we both would like to settle and move forward quickly on it, so I would just encourage some more dialogue if we can.
Let me again thank you for coming to council, and thank you for the updates. And not to be too redundant, but it has been over a year, and Danville has suffered. Your company is a major corporation, so we know your company understands business. People literally all over the world heard about the coal that spilled in our Dan River. We're still trying to get that complete list of companies who were looking at Danville, but because of that, went someplace else. We're still trying to assess how many businesses locally were thinking about expanding, but when they heard about this coal ash spill, they made other decisions. Your company is huge. Your company understands that. Danville has been damaged. It's been 13 months, and people are still drinking bottled water because of the lack of trust. And there's a value tied to the word trust, okay? And mistrust is very, very terrible, and that still exists today. I know you're coming to give us updates. I know you're just the messenger, but please take the message back that after 13 months, Danville is tired of waiting, very, very frustrated. We have 43,000 people in our city. Our daytime population is somewhere around 125,000 people who work here, who visit here, who go through here, shopping, traveling. Okay? They too heard about what's happening at Dan River. Okay? We have suffered, and we've been waiting, and it's been 13 months, and I have not seen a check of any kind that says, we're sorry, and we're gonna try to make it right. Like I received that call the same day it happened from your CEO.
Yes, sir.
Saying we'll make it right. 13 months, still waiting. You're just a messenger. Please take these messages back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kimball.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Yes, sir.
I still question, of course, all of us being on council have been calls about the water and algae, the smell. I'm just wondering what impact the coal ash spill is having upon our water now. And I would like very deep in studies, and I know that some has been going. I am not satisfied with it, but what is happening with our water now is so unusual, it's strange. And I agree with the mayor 100%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor, if I could piggyback off that, and thank you, Councilman Campbell, getting so many calls. Mr. King, or Ken, since Councilman Campbell brought that up, a lot of our citizens are not privy to the PIO office's information in regards to our water, and everywhere we go, we all are hearing it. Can we get a brief update on the algae in the water, and can you just share a brief of what's happening and what's going on for those persons who are not privy to that information?
Well, I think some customers are still experiencing odor and taste problems, but it appears that the algae in the river coming into the water treatment plant has gone away. And so ultimately, the system should be able to clear itself out. But there will be cases because of the distribution system and even internal plumbing in a house where you'll see residual problems for days, if not weeks.
So I guess to sum it up for those who are watching us, the solution would be, we're working on it.
Right. Well, I think it's a matter of sensitivity to individuals. Some people can't tolerate the odor and smell. Some can. The water is safe to drink, but if it isn't aesthetically acceptable to you because of odor or taste, no one would suggest you use it.
And I thank you, Mr. King, for that, and I thank you, Councilman Campbell, because I wasn't going to say anything, but if you study algae and bloom in it and how it grows, and this was mentioned earlier tonight, it's really something to be concerned with. It's something to be, when the citizens are calling all the time, and I don't know if this has a part of it whatsoever, I don't. But as the mayor stated and so many others have stated, our city has gone through a lot. And I like what the Girl Scouts said tonight. You know, there's a quote that says, "A child shall lead them." And these young people came up and said, "We're sisters." Well, I think what you heard tonight is we want to be neighbors with Duke, and right now you can tell, and you're the messenger. We're not very happy, and I'm just going to stop right there because someone is viewing, and they always tell me, I can tell when you're starting to get upset, so I'll stop.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Well, I just want to say, water at my house and water at my office still tastes terrible. And, you know, people are convinced. And I actually had a secretary, she lived in West Virginia when they had a coal ash spill many years ago. She said the water now tastes exactly like it did when they had coal ash in the water. So maybe it's algae, but a lot of people aren't convinced it is. So we're still suffering from what happened last year. People are still won't drink the water.
Well, let me begin by saying,
sure,
I appreciate all the courtesies that the council and the mayor have extended to me, as well as the staff. Y'all been very polite throughout this, and I appreciate that very much. You're correct. I am the representative for the company. I'm a 34-year employee of the company, so I believe very deeply in what it does and what it has done. I do like the idea that we can continue our dialogue, that we can work towards an agreement that both you and my company and its customers can be satisfied with. And I think that's just going to take some deep dialogue and some continuing dialogue. But more than happy to do that, and we'd like to see that continue for all of our benefits.
Other questions, comments? Mr. Shanks?
Thank you. I would like to say, we'd like to see that continue to the end.
Yes.
In the short future. So,
I think a near-term agreement
no,
would be
seriously,
good.
we've spent a lot of time as a group, and I'm sure, y'all this is your disaster, but we've spent a lot of time as a group, and we truly would like that dialogue to lead to a conclusion in the short term.
Yes, sir. As would we. And I think Mr. Whitfield has the proper avenues for us to continue doing that. And going back to the situation about the water, we understand how customers and folks can make some assumptions or try to connect some dots that may not be connectable. So through all this, we try our best to rely on the science and work with the facts. And I think that's important for us to keep in mind as we work through this. But again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one follow-up. We just want you to understand, in particular, you want to work through this. We have spent as you know, if you go down here to the warehouse district, we have spent a fortune on our riverfront. Unlike anything upstream or downstream, we have spent a fortune down there. And all of that is for naught with disasters like this. We need to get this behind us, and we need it not to happen again. So we're anxious in pursuing the dialogue and ending the dialogue shortly. And hopefully that'll end the dialogue on a good tone and not a bad tone.
On a good note. And I think we have some great possibilities in regards to the riverfront. The Water Resources Fund, I know there was an application made there. The Natural Resource Damage Assessment Recovery Trustees, there's another opportunity there. This agreement that we talked about tonight, there's another possibility there. The Dan River Foundation, Community Foundation of the Dan River Basin, there's $250,000 there. So, Mr. Shanks, I absolutely agree. There's a world of possibilities for your Riverwalk and your riverfront.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would speak on any matter not on the agenda? Thank you. The motion to approve our minutes of our meeting of February 3rd, 2015. Mr. Campbell, for a second. Mr. Buckner, discussion of the motion. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Buckner?
Aye.
Reverend Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Rowley?
Aye.
Mayor Saunders?
Aye.
Mr. Shanks?
Aye.
Mr. Vogler?
Aye.
Consideration of adopting an ordinance appropriating the VDOT Enhancement Program awards. Council, your pleasure, Mr. Vogler.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015 budget appropriation ordinance for grants from the Virginia Department of Transportation in the amount of $204,828 to provide funds for extension of the North Side Riverwalk Trail from Piedmont Drive, Robertson Bridge to the intersection of Advance Street and Trade Street.
Is there a second? Mr. Raleigh. Discussion of the motion. Please call the roll.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Raleigh.
Aye.
Mayor Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
New business, consideration of adopting a budget appropriation for the commissioning of the Danny project. Is there a motion? Mr. Raleigh?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015 budget appropriation ordinance for grants from the Danville Regional Foundation, the amount of $25,000 to provide funds for Project Danny for first reading.
Okay, second by Mr. Jones. Discussion on the motion? Mr. Vice Mayor.
As I understand it, Danny is a river otter. This will be his story. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? First reading. Consideration of acceptance of the DRF grant and amending the FY 2015 budget appropriation ordinance to increase revenues and expenditures in the special grant fund. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015 budget appropriation ordinance by increasing revenues from the Danville Regional Foundation, an amount of $100,000 for the city's China strategy project and appropriating the same.
Okay, there's a second. Mr. Gilstrap. Discussion on the motion? First reading. Consideration of approving an ordinance for $1,500,000 budget appropriation to pay off the remaining balance of the Bi-Commission grants issued to 4 entities. Council, your pleasure. Mr. Shanks.
Mr. Mayor, I move for adoption of ordinance amending the FY 2015 budget appropriation ordinance to provide a transfer from the general fund balance for a refund to the Virginia Tobacco Indemnification and Community Revitalization Commission for repayment of grants to 4 entities in the amount of $1,500,000 and appropriating same. And appropriating same.
Okay, there's a second. Mr. Raleigh. Discussion on the motion. First reading. Communication, Mr. King.
Just to clarify for the public, in the work session following this meeting, the City Council will receive what we call the working draft of the proposed budget. This, during the last few years, has been done a month ahead of the normal process, and we understand and encourage public involvement and interaction in the budget process. Just like for you to be patient for the next month, the City Council and staff will amend the budget, modify the budget, add to, subtract from, and then present the budget for full public disclosure. And at that time, we will have a new website with new tools available for citizens to get down as deep in the details as they'd like and be very actively involved in the budget process. So every bit of our budget process is transparent, but this first step where we introduce a working draft is intended to be still fine-tuning of a budget that we will deliver to the public for their involvement in April. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Whitfield.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mrs. DeMassey.
Nothing, sir.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the Girl Scouts for being here tonight, and thank you for these wonderful, wonderful cookies that I most certainly do not need, but I will definitely enjoy them. Also, I'd like to say, she's going to kill me for this, happy 30th birthday to my beautiful wife, Jessica, who I'm sure is watching at home. Nothing else. Thank you.
I still won't get you out the doghouse, okay? You still got to pay, young man. Thank you.
I'm going to pay her off in Girl Scout cookies.
Right.
Reverend Campbell.
Good luck, Mr. Buckner. Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank the Girl Scouts for being here. We look forward to seeing you all every year. The city employees who were so efficient on this last snowstorm, I just want to say that we appreciate the work that you are doing within the city of Danville. My last comment, I am still very disturbed about the coal ash spill and the algae things that's been happening. We must stay on this course and make sure that Duke is accountable. We as elected officials and representing the citizens of Danville, we have a responsibility. That's why we're here. And the citizens have been speaking to us, and they expect making sure that the city gets what it's supposed to have. And I just want to commend all of the council, the mayor, our city manager, of staying on this, and we will most definitely continue on the path, making sure that Duke is accountable and also to compensate for what has happened with the coal ash spill. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Yes, Girl Scouts, thank you. I look forward to this each year, and I think you're growing. Every year you bring more and more. And while I'm talking about Girl Scouts and the students, let me just say that I was so impressed last week and last night of the wonderful students that we have in our GW Orchestra, our GW Orchestra Band, our Wind Ensemble, the middle school orchestra. Sometimes I think our students get a bad rap. You don't deserve it, because most of our students are very diligent and well behaved and are going to be outstanding citizens. And I thank you, Girl Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
With all that snow I prayed for you all to be out of school, I thought I would get 2 boxes of cookies. Thank you all so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. But I also want to, a friend of mine went and listened to our Deal Fest and heard about mentors and mentees. Mr. Mayor, can I ask for all the leaders of these young ladies to stand up, the mothers and the guardians and the leaders and everybody. This is what it's all about. Thank you all. Thank you all. Because a lot of people talk the talk, you all are actually walking the walk, and you're mentoring our young people. And to hear that young lady, that's going to stay on my mind, talk about we are sisters. Thank you all for what you're teaching our young people. Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, I also want to thank American National Bank, Mr. Jeff Haley and Charlie Majors. That civil rights display and the event a couple of weeks ago, it was just, to me personally, it was amazing to have the 2 speakers that were speaking, and to hear the young lady who was speaking to say to Bishop Campbell, if I have any of my facts wrong, Bishop, please, you and Mother Campbell, let me know. But to be able to see where honor was being given to those who was a part of that civil rights movement, and for American National Bank to do such a superb job, it was just, of all the events I went to, that was just amazing. And the other part of it was to see the number of council members. I think the majority of the council members was there, school board members were there, Pennsylvania County. It was just to see the number of people there, it was just totally amazing. But also the George Washington Eagles on tomorrow night, they're traveling to Woodgrove because they're still in the championship, and Mr. Vogel and I have been attending the games. And last, Dr. Seuss, the young people who've been out of school, Mr. Vogel and I had the opportunity to be the cat in the hat and all kinds of stuff yesterday at Cardinal Village, and we had a great time. So again, Mr. Mayor, it's an exciting time in Danville, and I concur with Mr. King. If you have any questions about anything, it's going to be on our website. Also, my address is on there, my contact information on there. Feel free to contact us and get the facts. Thank you, Mr. King. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Miller.
I want to piggyback on what you just said about the event at the bank. That was just an awesome event last Sunday last, and I was just inspired by what was done. Both speakers were just excellent. A great event. You were talking about selling thousands of cookies, and I got to calculate. In 15 years, I sold 500 to 600, maybe 700. That's over 7,500 cookies, maybe close to 8,000 cookies that I helped sell, boxes. So appreciate what the Girl Scouts do. Just a second to remember the family of and Andrew Mark Hodges. We talk all the time about how our city workers and police and fire department put their lives and health on the line, and he was injured in one of these storms, and our prayers are with he and his family. He was seriously injured trying to clean up the streets in our city. And one final thing, I talked to a man the other day who is from Roanoke. He's worked there all his life. He's retiring. And he's retiring to Danville. Why? He's an avid mountain biker. he loves to mountain bike, and these trails are known everywhere. So he's going to retire here so he can ride the bike trails every day. So, you know, sometimes you feel good about what we've done for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Raleigh.
Ladies, thank you. The best cookies ever made is what you sell. I think we all would agree with that. Mr. Buckner, you can tell your wife, I got shoes and neckties 30 years old. you tell her she is young, man. Mr. Mayor, I would just also like for us to remember the gentleman that Dr. Miller just mentioned who got hurt trying to get the snow off of our streets. We have been thinking about him, and hopefully those updates. The last one I saw, he was doing better, but if we could get another update sometime, it'd be great. But just to let his family know and he know that we are supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shanks.
Yes, I too would like to thank the Girl Scouts. I look forward to this meeting every year. And there certainly are a bunch more here this evening than there have been in the past. And thank you to the parents and leaders as well. Also, just as many others have said, we have had a pretty difficult February for the city employees and public works and public utilities and those support departments as well, along with fire and rescue. So I want to say a big thank you for the job well done for all these wintry global warming events, or global, let's call it climate change. But anyway, in any event, I want to give a shout out to all those employees that worked so hard. I understand there were some department of utilities department employees that may have worked up to close to 20 hours during a shift, and that's a tough, with the weather conditions the way they were, that's a tough road to travel. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Vogel.
I just first want to start by just offering my thoughts and condolences to the family and the work family and friends of Chad Smith, who was the executive chef at Golden Leaf Bistro, one of our great River District businesses, who was tragically killed in a car accident Friday, and was 31 years old. And so I know that those of us who knew him, even, you know, passingly, definitely want to pass on our thoughts and condolences to all those who knew him. And I did just want to briefly mention an issue that, and I'm sure other council members got emails and things about over the weekend, and we don't need to delve into it now, but maybe in work session could get some clarification on an issue with handicap accessibility and an issue that was at one of our city buildings this past week, and maybe that issue could be clarified to us on council, but I know that we got some emails on that, so hopefully we can discuss it in work session. I just want to briefly talk about Danville utilities. I think we all know that we're doing studies right now that everything is being looked at, all the options and everything. And I just want to say that, and I know that it's about time or close to time when council is going to get the results of this, and then that's when some decisions will be made, discussions will be had. And my hope is that we don't just limit this discussion to a sell or not sell, or raising rates and not raising rates, because I think if that's what we do, we'll have missed a great opportunity to discuss some real reforms possibly within our Danville utility department. And in the end, I think if we don't look at every single thing and everything that we can do to make the utility run efficiently, you know, from the top to the bottom, through rates, through customer service, through every single thing, then we will have missed a great opportunity. So I hope that we don't just limit it to what is deemed to be the basic components of it. But there's a whole lot of things that I'm hoping that we will discuss, and I think we have the time to discuss because it's been going on for several months now. So I hope that we're thorough at the end part of it as well. And as Councilman Jones mentioned, I'm going to transition to positive stuff, because as Councilman Jones mentioned, Cardinal Village yesterday, he and I had an opportunity to read for Dr. Seuss Day and National Reading Week, and just a great thing to be around our young people and to spend time with them and Cat in the Hat and all that, and it's just I always leave things like that feeling uplifted, so it was a great opportunity. And was also mentioned Idea Fest was this past week, and a tremendous event. Second year it's been done now, partnership, I believe, with the Launch Place and the city and all these people coming together. We had people from Pennsylvania who came down for this, people from all over the region came into Danville for this event to pitch their ideas, to share their ideas, and to follow their pursuit of the American dream. The American dream has never been about how many things you own, how much money you make. It's always been about the ability to achieve happiness in your life as you deem it. And so that's what these people are trying to do, and I'm excited that we're doing events like that. And on that note, I want to thank the Girl Scouts for being here tonight. You know, everything that they do on a weekly basis in the community, and pursuing things that not only make them happy, but things that make the community better. And I am, you know, more than proud of each and every one of you. And something that we always hear people in the community say is, you know, that they would love to see a female member on the city council. You know, we've had some in the past, but they'd like to see some. And I think in the future, we've got some future city council potential ladies out there tonight, if you choose to, because I think you all are very, a very promising future ahead of you in whatever it is that you choose to do. And lastly, I just want to mention something that our city manager usually mentions. I don't think I've heard him say it in a council meeting yet, but baseball season is underway, and Averett and DCC are both playing right now. And for those who've asked earlier today and stuff about the ring that I'm wearing, because I don't normally wear this one, this is one of the 2 state championship rings that DCC won that I happen to be fortunate enough to be there at that point in time. So I'm always proud of DCC and the program and everything that they do there. But baseball season, Averett and DCC, they're playing right now. So go check them out, go see them, go support them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor Saunders.
We've had some very interesting weather here lately. And I think we've all heard about the city employee who was injured. And all know our prayers and our thoughts go out to him and his family. And all city employees, whether you slipped and fell or someone ran into you, but it just showed the risk that our employees put themselves for us to be safe. And so I just really want the family to know, and the employee, we're thinking about you and we're praying for you, and please get well soon. And to the Girl Scouts, thank you so much for the cookies, really appreciate that. You are leaders now, okay? You are future greater leaders, all right? And for the young lady who went to Washington to see the president become inaugurated, you will always remember that experience. You will never forget that experience. Who knows? One day, you may be Madam President, and that is possible. So to our young people, thank you so much, and keep on doing great things. Meeting adjourned.